General Lionel Braxton figured he'd just fuel up and be on his way. But when two officers treated him like a threat instead of a patriot, they didn't realize the Pentagon was listening in real time. It was a sun-soaked Thursday in Dinwiddie County, Virginia, the kind of afternoon where the heat lingers on your skin and the world moves in slow motion. Braxton had just finished a quiet lunch with a longtime friend from Fort Lee. At 67, he carried the air of a man who'd weathered battles, both in combat and behind polished doors in Washington. Still, none of that meant a thing the moment he pulled into the Fillmore Gas and Go Off Y-85. He was driving a tan Nissan Altima, just a standard rental. Nothing fancy, just dependable wheels for a quick southern trip. Dressed in a navy blue polo tucked neatly into a pair of khakis and wearing worn leather loafers, he looked every bit the off-duty retiree not seeking attention. As he stepped out and reached for the gas nozzle, he noticed a patrol car rolling past the entrance, slowing noticeably. Then it made a U-turn. "Here we go," he murmured, mostly to himself. Braxton wasn't paranoid, but he trusted his instincts, and something wasn't right. The cruiser pulled into the lot and sat idle for almost a full minute. Two white officers remained inside, watching him. No one got out. No one reached for coffee or gas. Just two pairs of eyes locked on him. Finally, the doors opened. Officer Blake Tressler, late 30s, solid build, shaved head, strode forward with one hand resting near his holster. A step behind came his partner, Officer Colin Rayburn, taller, thinner, and visibly less sure of himself. Their walk wasn't rushed, but it wasn't friendly either. "Sir," Tressler called out, "can you step away from the vehicle for a moment?" Braxton remained composed. "Is there a problem?" Tressler replied. "We got a report about a suspicious vehicle. Yours matches the description." Braxton arched a brow. "A beige Altima? At a gas station?" Rayburn fidgeted beside him. "It's more about the person, sir. You, match the description given." Braxton didn't blink. "I'm a retired four-star general, United States Army. Name's Lionel Braxton. I just left Fort Lee. I can show you my ID." He slowly reached into his back pocket and took out his wallet. A clean, official military ID and a retired officer's license flipped open. Tressler glanced at it but didn't take it. "I'm going to need you to move to the side of the car," he repeated, this time with more force. Braxton exhaled, not out of fear but irritation. "You've got my identification. Run it. It'll take less than a minute." Rayburn looked over at Tressler, silently waiting for direction, but Tressler had already decided. "We're not doing this here. Sir, step away from the vehicle now." Just then, Braxton's phone buzzed in his hand, a scheduled call from a Pentagon liaison. He answered, placed it on speaker, and kept both hands in full view. "Braxton here. Hold a moment," he said, voice steady but tense. Tressler's temper snapped. "That's it. Hands on the vehicle. Now." Braxton didn't budge. "You're making a serious mistake." Rayburn reached for his cuffs. "Sir, we're not going to ask again." And then it escalated. With guns still holstered but movements forceful, the two officers slammed the retired general against the hot hood of the rental. Knees scraped, shoulder yanked. The cuffs clicked shut. Braxton's phone slipped from his grasp and landed on the pavement. Speaker still active. "General? General Braxton?" A voice repeated faintly from the line, just loud enough to hear. Tressler ignored it. Rayburn noticed, but said nothing. "You're being detained," Tressler said curtly. "We'll talk at the station." "For what?" Braxton replied, his tone cool but edged. "Driving while black at pump 4? Tressler didn't answer. His expression tightened with irritation. Rayburn looked unsure, his confidence wavering. They began leading Braxton toward the cruiser, but the voice on the phone was already moving, sharp and commanding, straight into a situation bigger than they were prepared for. Meanwhile, 30 miles north in Washington, D.C., inside a quiet Pentagon office, Lieutenant Commander Sheila Franks sat at her desk. Inside the Pentagon's E-ring, Lieutenant Commander Sheila Franks sat upright as her voice echoed through the fallen phone on the pavement. "General Braxton, can you hear me, sir?" She leaned forward, focusing, trying to make out the muffled noise on the line. Her brow furrowed as she caught snippets, shouting, scuffling, orders barked, And then Braxton's voice, clear and composed despite the chaos. Her gut told her something was seriously wrong. Instead of ending the call, she pressed a button on her secure landline and patched in her superior. "Sir, I believe General Braxton's in some kind of situation. I'm still connected." On the other end, Colonel Derek Paley sat up straight. "Location? Phone's pinging near Petersburg, Virginia. Route 460. Paley didn't hesitate. "Get military liaison services on the line, and I want a direct patch to Virginia State Police, now." Back at the gas station, Officer Tressler scribbled notes on a clipboard, while Rayburn shifted uneasily. He kept glancing at Braxton, who now sat in the backseat of the cruiser. Something in his posture, quiet, still, staring straight ahead, made Rayburn second-guess everything. Braxton hadn't said a word since being cuffed. No protest, no anger, just silence. "Beige Altima, right?" Paley asked. "Yes. Get me your supervisor, now." Within 10 minutes, Dinwiddie County Sheriff Alan Gerber was on the phone, being told in no uncertain terms that two deputies were holding a highly decorated general, whose credentials were already confirmed at the federal level. Gerber's tone shifted instantly. "We'll handle it." Back in the cruiser, time seemed to slow. Braxton knew better than to speak too soon. His silence wasn't weakness, it was control. He understood all too well how a man's own words could be turned against him, especially when those holding the cuffs believed they were in charge. Officer Rayburn finally opened the door, but avoided Braxton's gaze. "Sir, I need to ask, was that ID you showed us real?" Braxton slowly turned his head and met Rayburn's eyes. "You want to ask me that now?" Rayburn looked pale, almost sick. He shut the door again, stepped aside, and whispered something heatedly to Tressler. Tressler just shook his head, while Rayburn pointed toward the car. Just then, a black SUV pulled into the lot at speed. Two men in suits stepped out, both from military liaison services. One flashed a badge. "Who's in charge here?" Tressler straightened, responding, "I am Officer Tressler." The taller man spoke first. "You have a federal problem. That man in your car is General Lionel Braxton. Your body cams better be running." Tressler stammered. We were just following up on a call." Braxton was released without apology. His wrists were red, his expression unreadable. The man in the suit leaned in close to Tressler. "You have any idea how badly you just screwed up?" Braxton looked at Rayburn, then at Tressler. "I gave you my name," he said simply. Rayburn opened his mouth, but no words came out. But it wasn't just the officers scrambling. Word of the incident was already climbing political channels, and the Pentagon wasn't the only institution paying attention anymore. By the time General Braxton was freed from the cruiser, his wrists were already bruised. He didn't demand an apology or threaten a lawsuit. He simply picked up his phone, glanced at the cracked screen, and saw 23 missed calls, most from numbers only a man in his position would recognize. Some local, some federal. One came directly from a three-star general at the Pentagon. Back inside the black SUV, Braxton said little to the agents sent to extract him. He only asked to speak with Lieutenant Commander Sheila Franks. The phone was handed to him without hesitation. "Sheila, sir," she said. "I've already briefed Colonel Paley. State Police and Internal Affairs have been notified." Braxton exhaled slowly, not relief, but restraint. "Make sure they know I cooperated every step. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't resist. This wasn't just a mistake." Franks paused, understanding. The SUV pulled away from the gas station, leaving Tressler and Rayburn behind in the eye of a storm that hadn't even begun. Rayburn leaned against the cruiser, hands on hips. Tressler simply stared at the exit ramp, jaw clenched tight. Within the hour, Virginia's governor had been briefed. The Secretary of Defense was looped in. By the time Braxton returned to his hotel in Petersburg, his name was already trending nationwide. Not for a speech or his veteran work, but because a black retired general had been handcuffed like a common criminal just miles from the base he once commanded. The Pentagon's legal team demanded every piece of evidence: body cam footage, dispatch transcripts, incident reports. No stone was left unturned. Then came the question that shifted everyone in their seats. Why hadn't the ID been verified immediately? Back at the Dinwiddie County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Gerber faced a room full of tense faces. Reporters had already begun circling. An officer from dispatch handed him the Pentagon's official inquiry letter. The letterhead alone was enough to make sweat bead on his brow. The press conference was brief and uneasy. Gerber called it a procedural failure, but no one believed him, especially not Braxton, who watched the entire thing from his hotel room. TV muted. He didn't need to hear it to know the truth. He knew how it would play out. That night, Colonel Paley met with the chief of staff and other high-ranking officials. "We need to be careful how we handle this," someone said. "He's a symbol, whether we like it or not." "He's a man," Paley replied, "one who served this country longer than half the people in this room." "What does he want?" another voice asked. Paley hesitated. He hadn't said yet, but General Braxton knew exactly what he wanted. He didn't want heads to roll, at least not yet. What he wanted was acknowledgement, not just of who he was, but of how quickly that identity was erased the moment two officers decided he didn't belong at a gas pump. The next morning, a formal investigation was announced. It wasn't just internal, it was federal. Independent oversight, military liaisons, civilian board members. Everyone demanded transparency, or at least the appearance of it. In Alexandria, Congressman Louis Berryman, a former Marine-turned-politician, delivered a fiery statement on the House floor. "If this can happen to General Lionel Braxton, it can happen to anyone. Don't tell me this was a miscommunication. This was a failure of judgment, tinted by the worst kind of bias." Braxton, once silent, was slowly becoming a national symbol again. But this time, not for battlefield strategy. Rather for how a country fails even its own when the uniform is no longer visible. While the Pentagon's machinery moved with precision, the real storm was forming in the court of public opinion, where reputations don't just fall, they collapse. 2 days after the incident, Officer Colin Rayburn couldn't sleep. He sat on the edge of his bed in his small Colonial Heights apartment, shirtless, staring at the carpet. His phone glowed beside him. Every headline had his name. Every comment section was a fresh wound. His girlfriend stopped answering his texts. His mother told him not to come over for dinner until things settled down. He knew it wouldn't. Not anytime soon. He had tried to explain to her, "I didn't know who he was. I was following Tressler's lead.